Hello and welcome to CabChat. This is episode 232, another one of our half an hour episodes, and this is going out twice a week from now on, Tuesdays and Thursdays. So make sure you tune in every Tuesday and Thursday on YouTube. The audio podcast is still going to be going out as one complete 1 hour show, because I know that people like to stop it, listen to it, and then start again as they're, in between fares and things like that. So they're still going to be going out as 1 hour show. But on YouTube, we're going out as two 30-minute shows every week from now on. So what are we going to be talking about this week, Tom?
My favourite topic of all. I find this quite a contentious issue, and it's one of those things that unfolds quite a bit week by week. It is driverless cars in London.
Lovely. Driverless cars. Yeah, we've seen all the videos on TikTok and Instagram of Waymos in America doing all sorts of silly things. So come and start us off then.
Well, where do I begin? I'm looking on BBC here. Wave are saying not even potholes will hold up self-driving cars, UK firm predicts. I'm finding, the whole topic fascinating, and how circular AI and all self-driving cars actually are. As an example, I was listening to a podcast the other day about how they first came to sort of come about, the trials of how they just happened in a desert in America, and then people were coming up with these crazy ideas of self-driving cars, and they didn't work, and to the point now where they very much are here and they do work. But there was actually originally in, of course, the late 19th century, backlash to the idea of motorized vehicles when the car first came onto the streets. Because if you think about it, horse-drawn carriage was the first kind of AI vehicle, autonomous driving.
Why is that?
Well, you'd be obviously in control of the horse, but the horse is going to be leading. It's doing you don't have to drive a horse, do you? I know you got to steer it and tell it where to go or whatever, but I assume I've never driven a horse, but they kind of just plod along, and they're not going to do anything stupid unless they kind of just bolt. That's probably the kind of the most dramatic thing a horse can do. But for the most part, the driver can kind of relax a little bit if you're just on the horse, right? It's not like this was when they brought in the motorized vehicle, like the motor car. There were so many deaths because of the idea that people actually had to be fully present, in control of the car. Obviously, they're not as got all the functions and sort of safety requirements and things that we have on cars today. It's kind of quite interesting to see that the AI cars coming in now. It's like, well, how many road deaths have there been? Well, there's only been a few as a result of them. And when the car came in, there was like thousands and thousands of deaths that came about as a result of it. And they still kind of managed to bring those in, really. So it's kind of weird that we've already had some kind of self-driving autonomous thing, which would be a horse, autonomous in that it's got its own autonomy away from a motorized car. Motorized car, you then had to make it more manual. And now we're kind of going back round to it. Your thoughts on this, Jamie? Where are we going before we go deeper into this?
Well, yeah, I suppose you're right with a horse, really, because a horse can, as you say, it can drive itself, can't it? It's sort of, if you're going down a path, if you go back to sort of medieval England or before cars, and you're going down the roadway or the horse path or whatever, the horse would literally follow the path to a certain extent, wouldn't it? And if you wanted to turn left or right, that's when you start guiding the horse. But other than that, it would just basically go straight, wouldn't it, along the given track. So, yeah, I suppose you could describe it as being the first ever autonomous type of vehicle before the motor cars started coming into existence. So, yeah, I suppose you're right on that count.
The other, I've listened to so many different sort of varying opinions on this, right? One driver I spoke with down at the Green Hut, who I won't name, but basically was saying that the thing that's good with taxis, or that kind of protects us to a degree, is that we are 100% disabled accessible. So there's going to be, at least for the short term, there's not going to be any autonomous car that's going to be able to accommodate for all those kind of needs, i.e. loading in wheelchairs and things like that. And really, that is something that we need to hold on to in all aspects, because another podcast I listened to was that they were trying to bring in these driverless cars, autonomous vehicle trials in Boston, in America, and the, the thing that kept coming up in this interview when were speaking with policymakers, when the Waymos and things like that are trying to get into Boston and do these trials, they were like, "Yeah, you can do the trials, but you're probably not going to be working here." They were saying, "Well, Boston is a union town or a union city." And that's like their strap line. It's like, we're a union city. We believe in workers. We believe, and they kind of see themselves as, even though they're kind of, I think they are a city, they see themselves as kind of quite small town, in that, there's lots of independent industries and stuff like here. We're not going to disrupt that. It is people first. But beyond that, a lot of people from disabled, say, campaigns and charities and such, were really for AI vehicles, because it gives them some of their autonomy back. You got to think, there was a person in this podcast interview who was registered legally blind, but it was a progressive blindness. They knew it from a young age that they would eventually become blind over time. They did things like they learned how to drive before they lost their sight, and they love driving. They love being able to get about and going to pick up like their elderly relatives, or being able to, if they had any hospital appointments, they can go do that. But of course, you can imagine, once you lose your vision, you're then robbed of that freedom, that autonomy, that you can go out and drive yourself about. And they were at the mercy then, of course, of other transport options, taxis, and maybe people that were less kind of accommodating to their needs. Or even if you just want to be able to get about randomly late at night, if you want to be able to nip to the shops or whatever. So you can imagine, for some people, some vulnerable people, and especially in some parts of the country where there isn't a good taxi service, to be able to just have an autonomous car come along and just take you at any hour, wherever, there is sort of some plus points to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the thing is, we've harped on about the human element within the cab trade, and the fact that, some people can still need or want that human interaction and that human element. And I was watching a TikTok from a private hire driver the other day, because I do watch a lot of TikToks from private hire drivers. I like to know what they're up to. And one of them was saying, even where Uber's concerned, with these autonomous vehicles, these autonomous taxis, as they keep calling them, which they're not taxis, because a taxi meter defines a taxi. And I know everyone said on our podcast and on YouTube and everywhere before, everyone calls them taxis now, calls everything taxis. But legally, the definition of a taxi is defined by a taxi meter, the meter that is installed in a taxi. But we get a passenger in the cab that makes a bit of a mess in the cab, and maybe eating a packet of crisps, and the crisps go over the floor. What do you do when the customer gets out of the cab? You get out and you sweep the cab out. Right. And one of the things he was saying was, what about if someone makes a mess in the cab? What about if they're sick in the car? What about if they piss on the seat? Or something else he said. How is the car going to know if someone's messed on the seat? The next passenger gets in, sits on the seat, could be a lady in a very nice evening dress that's very, very expensive. She sits in someone else's urine, which is not going to be very nice.
They do have a lot of internal cameras in those, and of course, I imagine they're going to be like AI algorithmically controlled, so you'll be able to see like what the passenger is up to. Do they kind of look like in distress? Are they just on their phone or whatever? So that will help mitigate some of this, I guess, because it will be a bit like, I imagine, the Amazon model, where you're like, oh well, Amazon's such a big company, like if they deliver stuff next day, what's their returns policy going to be like? How do people not just return crap? And, how is it going to happen? And amazingly, they're quite quick with their like returns policy. It's very laissez-faire, and it'll be the same with this, I guess. They'll just take that car out of action, and there'll probably be enough cars to kind of service the demand. But as you say, it's hard to know if someone's, done something like fouling in the car that, you're unaware of.
They could just be sitting there and wet themselves all over the seat, and the car's not going to know that. And if they're eating crisps, it's not going to know this. Crisps all trodden into the carpet in the back of the car, There's a lot of things it's not going to know. It's not going to know whether someone's left an item of luggage in the boot of the car, or in the front or in the back of the car, especially if it's on the floor behind the seat. Ladies get in, they've got their bag, they put it on the floor by the side of them. If it's hidden behind the seat, how's the car going to know it's there? And things like that. So there is this thing about the human element. You do need the human element when it comes to driving a taxi. And the thing is, why are they choosing taxis? Why are they choosing cabs as their first priority? Surely trains, underground trains, they're on rails. Why do they still need a driver if
Well,
taxis that are on the road don't?
it comes back to this human element again, isn't it? And this is like what all the train unions and stuff will always sort of push for. It's like, well,
Yeah.
you need this human intervention. You need them to check that passengers aren't getting stuck in the doors. You used to have the train guards years ago who would do this, that would ensure that doesn't happen. But sadly, one of those things that's lost. A bit like conductors on buses. I'd still advocate for the fact we need conductors again because it's a much more efficient system.
Much, much more
Um,
efficient system
you're going to
because,
have, well, you're going to probably have less fare dodgers because you've got someone who's
yep.
specifically doing the fares. You're
And
going to have
also
less mess. Sorry.
the passengers get on the bus and the bus moves off straight away rather than them having to queue to get on to either tap their card or pay. They just get on, the conductor goes around and collects the fares. And that's why the bus system was so efficient. The bus would pull up, people would get off, people would get on, and off it goes. Now, people are queuing to go ding, ding, ding all the time. And it's a less efficient system. Something I watched on YouTube the other day was we've all seen the case of Lambeth Bridge, where our illustrious mayor has decided to remove the roundabouts on both sides of Lambeth Bridge. So, why? A lot of people are saying it's for the cycle paths. Well, if that's the case, why are we still allowed to turn left across the cycle path and right across the cycle path when you go north over the bridge? Well, I say north, you go on the north side of the river. And the same when you come south, but when you're coming down Horseferry Road, you can't turn left or right, you'll fall straight over the bridge. It all seems a bit strange to me. There can only be one reason why they're removing them, is because autonomous cars do not cope with roundabouts that well. So in America, they was doing a bit of a quick study on four-way traffic signals compared to roundabouts and what were the most efficient use of a junction. Yeah. Now, bearing in mind, in America, they can turn right on a red light. We can't turn left on a red light because we drive on the other side of the road. So we'd turn left on a red light, whereas they turn right on a red light. We're not allowed to do that. So our four-way signals are less efficient than American four-way signal. Yeah. So in a specified amount of time, they concluded that they managed to get 36 cars or 35 cars through a four-way signal. Yeah. Bearing in mind they're allowed to turn right on a red. Then they used a roundabout method. Now, bearing in mind, most American drivers are not that good at using roundabouts because they don't come across them that often. Whereas we in the UK use them all the time. Yeah. They're everywhere. So we're quite used to using roundabouts. They managed to get 46 cars around the roundabout in the same period of time. So you can imagine that the difference between a four-way signal in the UK and a roundabout would be even greater. So why would you remove an efficient system to replace it with a less efficient system? Yeah.
Yep.
Unless there was a specific reason. And the only specific reason that taxi drivers, and I think most private hire drivers, are coming to is the fact that autonomous vehicles cannot cope with roundabouts. And that can be the only conclusion. Because if you wanted to say that it was because of the cyclists, there were ways that you could have kept the roundabouts there and provided safe crossings for cyclists. Put traffic lights on the roundabout, stop all four lanes for a minute, and then let them all go again while the cyclists went across safely. If the cyclists then wanted to go round the roundabout with traffic, that's up to them. But if they wanted to use the cycle path and cross the roundabout without any traffic, then they could have had traffic lights on all four sides, just stop the traffic for a minute, let the cyclists cross, and then let them all go again. Simple. And it wouldn't have caused as much chaos as what we've had for the last 2 years on Lambeth Bridge. It would have been a quick, efficient way of getting around the problem. But no, we've decided to go from an efficient system to a far, far less efficient system. There can
Well,
only be one reason why.
adding to your point, zebra crossings, another example of a wonderfully efficient system. It's based upon flow of pedestrians, i.e., if there's no pedestrians at night, then there's little cause to stop on them. And I saw one yesterday. I was coming down City Road into Finsbury Square, and right there, the zebra crossing there, that's now been replaced with a button-operated crossing
Yeah,
with a
I
little
think
island
you're
in
going
the
to see
middle.
them all go, and it's
They're
only
all
one
going.
reason why. And why? The problem I can't get my head around, and this is something that has been going around in my head for a long time and been bugging me, is that so there's this drive for autonomy in all sorts of walks of life. You know, we're just the first port of call, shall we say, where they're going to try to make taxis or cabs autonomous. Do away with the driver. It means that the companies can earn more money. And they're actually saying now with things like AI and, you know, Claude and ChatGPT and things like that, that in the end, a plumber's going to earn more money than a lawyer or an accountant, because they're saying that you can do away with an accountant because AI can do your accounts for you. Yeah, it's quite simple. You know, if you've got to do a sort of a confirmation statement for Companies House, you can just say to ChatGPT, make me a confirmation statement for this company, and it just, bang, it's there, it's done. Yeah, you don't need an accountant to do it for you. You can just get AI to do it for you. So plumbers will end up earning more than an accountant or a lawyer in the end. Yeah, so if we do away with all these professions with AI or autonomy, who's going to be able to afford to get in these autonomous vehicles? So what's the end result? We've got loads of autonomous cars driving around with no passengers because no one's working. No one can afford it anymore. So it's a pointless exercise in the end. You're just doing away with jobs for the sake of doing away with jobs so that the big companies can effectively earn more money and then in the end go bankrupt because there's no one using their services.
I mean, in a weird way, for all of these AI things, they're autonomous, they're AI, the whatever, artificial intelligence, but you actually, as humans, we lose our autonomy by introducing them. And what I mean by that is the example of the zebra crossing, right? A zebra crossing is like a negotiated junction where you get to freely cross kind of when you want because you get to kind of think for yourselves, right? It's the idea of you thinking. But in order to appease an autonomous vehicle and make the autonomous vehicle more efficient, it has to be replaced with a stop signal, a crossing, that you have to stop and wait and abide by. So therefore, you are losing your autonomous right to be able to say, you know what, I can cross when I like, or I can cross with, you know, negotiating the traffic. And it's just going to happen in all areas of life, whereby it's going to be, you know, queuing systems and uh, less kind of just freedom and movement and interaction because you have to do things in a certain order because that's just the way that the system now has to work because of, you know, you have to scan your card here because that's the only way you can now go buy this thing, and you have to connect it to that because that's the only thing. So it's not that freedom or autonomy, as you say, which is kind of the irony here is they're called autonomous vehicles, but we are losing our own individual sovereignty and autonomy to be part of it.
Exactly. And there was I don't know if you've ever watched the series Capture on BBC. Ever watched the latest series of Capture? And that is a prime case of AI gone mad. Yeah? It's a very, very good example of AI gone mad where a government institution relies on AI to tell it what to do and when to do it. Yeah, I'm not going to divulge too much. Maybe you go and watch it, and maybe in a month or so's time we'll come back and talk about this again because it just proves the case that you cannot rely on AI to get things right all the time. And the point in case is, where does the liability lie? If the car has an accident or injures somebody, yeah, okay, the insurance is going to pay out. If the car jumps a red light, which we've seen them do, and it hits another car, who's liable? Because if it jumps a red light, hits another car, if there was a traditional driver driving that car, that would be driving without due care and attention, or dangerous and reckless driving, for which you could get 6 points for and lose your license. if you on an accumulation of points, if you're a taxi driver, you'd get a suspension straight away for that
Yeah.
in London now. But as an autonomous vehicle, who's liable? Does that car lose its license? Does the company
Someone
lose
at the
its license?
company get a ticket, on
Yeah,
their license. Yeah.
yeah. Who's responsible? Who's liable? Where does the liability lie? Where's the it just, to me, it's just allowing computers to end up ruling our lives. And do we really want to go down that route of relying on computerized systems that much that we no longer think for ourselves anymore? Which is where we're going. It's the right way we're going. And it's, Stephen Hawking said something along the lines of, do not make computers too intelligent. And what have we gone and done? We've made them too intelligent. I mean, we're all using AI to some extent in our lives, and some things for fun, some things, we've all had examples of using AI. I mean, someone criticised my video that we put out last week for using an AI image. Yeah, it's because I'm not that great at making images. So it's like, stick it into AI, stick the couple of images with an idea, and it just produces it for you. It's easy, it's simple, it's quick, and it makes life easier. That's great. But would I rely on it to 100% to give me advice or to drive me somewhere? I don't think I would.
Yeah.
I'm not that confident, and I don't think we should be going down that route personally.
I think for as long as that we still, this is kind of my sentiment actually for people that are either getting into the cab trade or in the cab trade, because this might seem like, well, Tom and Jamie have told us, the technology's here. We're seeing the Waymos go round, and I'm a firm believer that the technology does work and it will be able to drive better than me. Drive better than me in terms of the accuracy of where it can place itself, etc. But it will be constrained by the system it operates within, i.e., in theory, they could ramp up how close that car could get next to another car, right? Like squeeze through small gaps and stuff like that. But it has to have a tolerance because of people involved, etc., where it's not going to squeeze up really close. So that's kind of my first point. But so long as it's still the current London that we know at the moment, the system that we operate in, taxi drivers are still always going to win because we already think and work in algorithms, but our algorithms are much better than what's powering the AI cars because they've only got basic sat navs. They've only got basic informational inputs based upon what it can see around it and the information that's being fed to it by other drivers. But we have other cab drivers that feed us information. We have our own knowledge and we can see, oh, okay, there's a bin lorry up there. Right. More than likely it's going to be stopping and doing a few stops there. And we have this kind of foresight. Like, you could see like an ambulance speed up the road and think, well, I did see something go up there earlier. There might be someone's been knocked over further up there. We can have the foresight to work out and program that ourselves and then have a whole plethora of options how we can then drive. Whereas the AI is just going to go, well, I think it's quicker if I go this way. And it's just going to carry on going that way. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter, to be fair, in there. They don't need to be efficient, to be fair. They just need a passenger on board. And as long as they've got a passenger on board, it doesn't really care because it's just the passenger that's losing out. Whereas people will always come to us for the time efficiency of being able to save time. And we already drive like AI vehicles anyway because we know what lane to be in at the right time to make the correct turn. We all take the same kind of routes based upon how we know how to get somewhere. We all pull away at the same rate because we all drive in the same TXE vehicle, basically.
The experience so far shows me that AI cars or autonomous vehicles are not always that sure of which lane to be in.
Okay.
And interestingly, yesterday when I was on my way home, after I'd finished the tour that I was doing, I was coming around Parliament Square, and what was coming the other way? But a German registered.
I did see a German registered one going on Regent Street. Yeah, it's just like a roof rack bolted to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a strange looking thing. Yeah, it was like a roof rack bolted to it with a couple of bits and pieces on the roof rack.
Yeah, because I think part of this trial was that anyone like driverless sort of vehicles, as long as obviously they're human operated, they're allowed to come and. So obviously you've got Wave, you've got Waymo, and then this German thing that I saw. Yeah.
Anyway, funeral for the road this week, Tom, because we've got to wrap up because we've got something else we've got to go and do very quickly.
Indeed. So this one, it's a weird little road. Many of us know it. It's Holborn Place, which obviously cuts you through from High Holborn into Lincoln's Inn Fields around the back of the Rosewood. So it's kind of not dead because it's the gate and it's obviously open and closed by the hotel. But alas, here we go. I've not actually read this through yet, so we'll see. Holborn Place.
Was this AI generated, Tom?
Maybe, yeah. I'm gonna have to lose my job, and sorry for all the poets out there that are required. I didn't commission a poet to write this, so we're replacing him. Here lay a passage known to those who learned the city not by map, but the soles of their boots, who walked it slow and wrote it in their blood, and called it quietly one of their own routes. Past the rosewood stone and amber light, past the portico where the doormen stand, it threaded through a needle through the night, and stitched the driver cleanly. Well, this is wrong. This is AI. Cleanly to the strand. Don't trust AI, ladies and gents.
There you go. Prime example of not trusting AI, eh? Not trusting AI at all.
While Camden laid its stones across the road like someone sleeping crosswise on a bed, while Proctor Street held every cabby, slowed, and High Holborn bled and bled and bled. This road slipped past it all. It did not stop. It opened Lincoln's Inn, those trees, that square. Then you spilled onto Kingsway at a trot, a secret held in common by those there. They say the hotel shut the gate for good. They say it was the cabby's fault, to known, too loved, too used, too freely understood. A knowledge secret is no secret shown. Now those who sit in it longer jams, those they do not speak of it, they only grieve, in silent, watching meters, watching trams. Trams?
Trams? Yeah, don't trust AI people. Don't use autonomous vehicles. They're trying to drive down train tracks that don't exist.
The city folding in what will not leave. I think it must be. It just pulled that in from the Kingsway, obviously, the old Kingsway tram line.
Tunnel. But yeah, so there you go. Prime example of why AI doesn't work and should not be relied on without human intervention.
Yeah, I should have read that before we started, but I'm sort of glad we didn't.
Yeah, so there you go. I think that proves our point, really, Tom, don't it? It's it's not always what it seems.
When did they get rid of the trams there? Probably like what, they were running in the 1920s, probably finished in the
50s, I would imagine. Yeah. 50s. Yeah. Because they replaced all the trams with 1952 when you had the smogs in London.
Right. Yeah.
Because they replaced all the trains with diesel buses, which contributed towards the smogs, along with the cheap coal that was being used in London, because to balance the deficit from the war, they were selling all the good coal abroad. So they was using all the cheap coal in London, which was causing lots of smoke. That combined with the 8,000 diesel buses that were now on the road caused smogs.
Didn't know that. There we go.
There you go. So you learn something new on CabChat every day, don't you?
I think we're ending on that bombshell then.
We're ending on that bombshell, and don't forget to like, subscribe, as you say, twice a week now. Twice a week, twice as much CabChat for you. Well, not really twice as much, just more often. More often, and because of people's concentration span, according to AI, apparently people's concentration span is no more than 30 minutes nowadays. And I think to a certain extent with YouTube and social media, that seems to be the case these days. 30 minutes seems to be about the sweet spot, apparently. So, yeah. We're going to stick to 30-minute shows. So this is exactly 29 minutes and 13 seconds. So you need to talk for another 30 seconds, Tom.
Talk amongst yourselves. Blah, 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 blah.
Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment below. We'd love to know what your thoughts are on the AI future of the world. and especially taxis and private hire vehicles in London, and whether they are going to take over and we're all going to be out of a job, or whether we're going to reign supreme and you know, like the phoenix, come back from the embers. Until next week,
So,
that's all from me.
it's all from me. Goodbye.